Esoinai, Hecharim, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri, Esoinai, Hecharim, Me'ayin Yavo Ezri, Ezri, Me'im Adonai, Ose, Shemayim V'aretz, Ezri, Me'im Adonai, Ose, Shemayim V'aretz. I lift my eyes up to the mountains, and what is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, the maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way, your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian, and God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forever. Amen. I was sharing with the family just before I arrived here. Cantor Cohen sent me a photo of Susan and Rosa together at a temple function, I think a senior's lunch. And I could probably show it to you from here, and you could see Rosa's smile from where you're sitting. She had this incredible, as she always did, this incredible smile that not only filled her face, but filled the whole room. A sweetness about her that just emanated like sunlight to fill a space. My prayer as we remember her this afternoon is that we remember her with that smile. She had a lot of health challenges, particularly towards the end, and she was so incredibly brave. She held on to life with that tenacity that she held on to everything, including her opinions. But most of all, she held on with sweetness. And so as all lives must come to an end, we celebrate the time that we had with her. I was saying earlier, we only mourn the things that we love. And the things we love the most, we cry the hardest over. And so let those tears be a tribute to her, to remember her in her sweetness and her smile and her sunlight, in her tenacity and her opinionness and her feistiness, but most of all in her joy for life and her joy for all of you. Her love of her children, of her family extended, and those that are her chosen family, which many of you, if not all of you, were included amongst. We're going to read a few passages from the Psalms and then hear some words from family and draw memories and lessons from her life. And in that way, while we bury the body, we take her soul with us. And we keep it alive in this world by doing those things that she can no longer do, but she inspired us to do. Turning to the writings of our tradition, I am under no illusion that Eduardo ever said these words to Rosa, though he might have. There is a custom in traditional Jewish homes to offer words from the Proverbs, words called Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. And as we were talking about Rosa last night, I was thinking about how much she embodied these words from our tradition. Eshet Chayil mi yimsa, a woman of valor who can find. She is more precious than fine pearls. Her husband trusts in her, and so he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm, all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband sings her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you, Rosa, an Eshet Chayil, you excel them all. Amen. In another reading, more contemporary. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. Amen. What a remarkable journey this woman had, from place to place, but also from stage to stage. It's incredible to think what she saw and also what she contributed to, the lives that she touched through her counsel, through her insight and her wisdom, through her kindness and her generosity. We remember her in all of those places and stages for blessing. Amen. I ask Rabbi Bregman to lead us in the reading of the 23rd Psalm, the translation of which is also in your handout.
Before I do, I just want to remark on what you just said, Rabbi. The lives that your parents touched certainly touched the lives of my family. Walking into the shul and having your mom and dad greet us the way they did, with such love, such caring. And that has continued with the next generation as well. We are so grateful for what they gave the Bregman family in Temple Shalom. Thank you. Mizmor LeDavid, this Psalm of David. Adonai ro'i lo echsar, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. V'nadeshi arbetseni, he makes me to lie down in green pastures. Al mei menochot yanachaleni, he leads me beside the still waters. Nafshi yeshovev, he restores my soul. Yancheni balad tzedek laman shemo, he guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Gam kelech beget salmavet, yea, though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, lo irara ki atai madi, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Shiftecha umishantecha, hema yanachamuni, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged sarai, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Dishanta v'shem en rosi kosi revaya, thou hast anointed my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Ach tov v'chesed yerdafuni kol yemei chayei, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. V'shalti b'beit Adonai lorech yamin, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Kol zman ve'et l'kol chepetz tachat hashamayim. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silent and a time to speak. And so we take time to speak, to tell the stories and draw the lessons and sing the praises of Rosa. I want to ask Carlos to begin.
So here we are. We're so thankful that our wonderful friends and family members are here with us. We really appreciate Rabbi Bregman, Rabbi Moskowitz, Rabbi Feinstone, Rabbi Brown, and all the caregivers of my mother at various homes, and most importantly, most recently in the NICU and BGH. I'm forever grateful for their kindness and love and support. So today we honor the life of my mother, Rosa Tesler-Mabe, otherwise known as Chuli, affectionately of course, and by her grandchildren as Grandma Chewy. She was born in Buenos Aires in 1943. Her life was shaped by history in ways many of us can really hardly imagine. She left the United States during the Vietnam crisis, and in 1976 she was forced to leave Argentina because of the military coup. And she did not leave alone. She had to move her young children, protecting us, guiding us, and carrying the weight of uncertainty so we wouldn't have to. Twice she rebuilt our lives from the ground up. Twice she chose hope over fear. Each time she created not just a new home, but a sense of safety and belonging. She was the devoted wife of Eddie Eduardo, my dear father, who passed away in 2006. My mother accompanied my father and us kids through every country, every challenge, and every new beginning. She was a proud mother of Gabby, my dear sister, Hernan, so nice to see you, and myself. To us, she was strength and reassurance. No matter how unstable the world felt, she made sure we felt secure. She taught us resilience, not only through words, but through action. She welcomed into her heart, our brother-in-law, Steve, and our sisters-in-law, my dear Karen and Mandy, who could not be here with us right now. Embracing them as part of the family she worked so hard to protect and nurture. As a Chimo counselor for 25 years, until age 74, she dedicated herself to helping others feel safe and heard, perhaps because she understood so deeply what it means to need safety. Compassion for her wasn't just her profession, it was her character and nature. And one of the greatest joys, of course, was becoming a grandmother to Lorenzo and Ila. They brought her immense pride and happiness. In them, her love and her legacy continue. Our mother showed us that true strength is steady, that courage is often quiet, and that love can carry family across borders, across hardship, and across generations. Mom, thank you for the sacrifices you made, especially when we were at times too young to understand them. We do understand them now. We will carry you with us always, your inner strength, your beautiful, loving smile and warm hugs will live in our hearts forever, Mom. Thank you.
I have been beyond blessed to have had Julie in my life for over 37 years. From the very beginning, she embraced and welcomed me into the Tesler-Mabe fold. She was always available to offer her support and listening ear, and over the years, she became like a second mother to me, and I like her second daughter. Her wisdom, calming presence, guidance, and love were a source of comfort, and I will always be thankful to her for this. These last 8 days when Julie was in the neuro ICU at VGH were intense and difficult, but I am incredibly grateful for the many, many conversations that we all had the opportunity to have with her, as well as the time to reminisce about happier times. She shared some family history I was not aware of. We laughed about the various dogs in the family, George, Luna, Soleil, and Lily, and their quirky personalities and crazy antics, and recent movies that she had watched on Netflix, which were, of course, mostly dog movies. And Rabbi Feinstein was telling me earlier that with Julie, she talked a lot about the food. She hated the food in every place that she was. And I think it was very rare for her to have anything she enjoyed except for breakfast. That was the only meal that was acceptable in the hospital to her. We spoke about my niece and nephew, Sophie and Oscar, who she was very, very fond of, and her beloved grandchildren, who she was immensely, immensely proud of. And we shared joyful memories of visiting them when she visited them in Calgary with Eduardo, when we lived there and the kids were little. And she replayed in her mind over and over how Ayla would shriek with joy and Lorenzo would bound into her arms, and she loved thinking about this. I was in absolute awe of her incredibly sharp memory, how she could recall her numerous medications and their respective doses and seemed to know as much as her various specialists. She had no problem telling any medical professional off if they didn't know their stuff, as well as the nurses and caregivers, some who are here, who know very well her personality. She was very feisty. And she, again, was just such a tenacious, tenacious woman. Until the very end, she was willing to try one last treatment if that would help her. And at the same time, she taught me that you can simultaneously hold, that you may not make it through. So she was planning an event that happened and that she wanted to go on her own terms. Everything that Julie did was on her own terms. The last day that I saw her before she passed, on Monday, can't believe we're standing here. What a gift. That day will be forever etched into my memory. Somehow, she found the strength to ask the nurses to put her in her wheelchair. I just happened to get there in time. And off we went with her oxygen tank strapped in. We went up to the outside terrace at the hospital. I bundled her up in warm blankets. And she had the opportunity to feel the sunshine on her face. The only thing missing was a dog licking her face, but oh well. She was thrilled at this outing, and she mustered the strength to chat happily with the people that we encountered in the hallways and in the elevator with her characteristic warmth and sweet smile. She wanted me to buy her an oatmeal cookie, which was of course against doctor's orders because she could aspirate. but she was like a naughty kid. She kept asking and asking. And I said no, and I regret that. I wish I'd let her have that cookie. She loved sweet things. Mi querida Julie, my dear Julie, you were a true force of nature in your own way. And I will miss your wisdom, your spunk, your courage, and the incredible love that you showed your family, your fierce determination, again, your ferocious, ferocious spirit. May you rest in peace and know that you will live on forever in the hearts of your family and all who knew and loved and were inspired by you. I'm so happy that she got to see her grandchildren before she passed. She waited. Ayla was the last one to come in when she was already not fully there. And Ayla played for her one of her favorite songs by Mercedes Sosa, Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto. Thank you to life that has given me so much. And Ayla told me that when that song ended is when the monitor started going off and she passed away peacefully. So Ayla and Lorenzo, she waited for you. And Lorenzo, you and Dad had the chance to speak to her the night before. And the Gabby and everybody. So what a gift she gave us. Thank you, Jude. Sorry if I spoke too long. No.
Ayla and Lorenzo, do you guys want to come up?
We really did inherit so much from Julie. You can see the screensaver of my phone is obviously a beautiful picture of my dog. Getting to spend almost 25 years on this earth with my grandma Julie is one of the greatest gifts that this life could have given me. Julie, or Chewy, as we always called her growing up, she would always show up with strawberry jello for me and Lorenzo because she knew that was our favorite when we were kids. She had the most beautiful, warm, loving smile, and every single time I saw her, every time we talked, she would remind me that she was always there for me if I needed someone, always. And I will carry her with me for the rest of my life. We shared so many laughs together. We had so many incredible conversations about history and music and life. Julie was a person whose entire worldview centered around peace. She was so gentle, but also so fiery and opinionated. And to know her was to be lucky enough to experience all of these dimensions of her, as I think many people in this room were so lucky to have the opportunity to. The men in our family, of course, are incredible, beautiful people, past and present. But I don't think anyone in my family would mind me saying that it is and was the matriarchs of our family, especially that imparted such profound strength and wisdom to us all, truly, especially. Let's see. It's fitting that a few weeks ago, Julie and I attended a bouquet making class at her care home together. She and I share not only the same middle name, Liliana, but a love of flowers and warm pastel colors, so that is why I wanted to wear some flowers today in her memory on my shirt. 20 years ago, when our grandpa Eddie passed away, who was Julie's partner of 43 years, she bought the plot of land right next to him for whenever that time would come for her. So today, Julie's soul and body will be reunited with the love of her life. Sorry, surrounded by her 3 children, 2 grandchildren, and so many other people here who were deeply important to her. So thank you so much for being here for this very sad but beautiful moment.
I guess I'll talk to you. Is that all right? this last period, and by last period I mean weeks, months, years, honestly, my family has been amazing in supporting Julie and caring for her and advocating for her and worrying about her and planning. And so it has also been a very difficult time, therefore, for them. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for supporting them and supporting myself and Ayla, and most importantly for coming here to honor Julie, Rosa, Chewy, etc. If it's okay, I just want to focus a little bit on the last sort of chapter for Julie here, this last few years. I would describe it as a roller coaster, definitely, and punctuated with lots of positive moments. For example, I loved visiting her in Richmond and, you know, sitting on the back porch and talking and listening to the fountain, or being in the living room with the sunshine pouring in, or a couple of years back even watching the ducks at the pond, which she loved. She loved those ducks. But it was also a period of several downturns. And the downturns usually took the form of Julie being rushed out to the hospital, or more often than that, being begrudgingly convinced to go to the hospital. And when I would see her go in there, and you know, typically she was going in a worse condition than before, every time. And I'm a pretty practical person, so I would see the situation and all of these issues that were a mesh of things that she had to navigate, and I would say, okay, this is quite the pickle you've gotten yourself into this time. I don't know how you can get out of this one. But time and time again, somehow, she got out of it. And I don't know how many times, you can fact check me on this, it feels like in the last year or two, probably a dozen times, she's gotten out of that damn hospital. Sorry for cursing. And I think there's no better example of this phenomenon than the last week. So in this last week, when the week started, we had every single reason to believe that Julie had 1, maybe 2 days left. And yet, as my mom said, no more than a few days after that, there she was, sitting upright in her chair, somehow enjoying a meal, making jokes, looking out at the Vancouver cityscape in the sunshine, and then the next day going out into that sunshine with my mom when they went outside. I find this to be quite remarkable. And I think it can only speak to the incredible life force, this love and passion for life that she had inside of her. Even if her words didn't always align with that, she had this love for life, and especially this love for people. And I think that's what propelled her through her career, helping so many people for decades. And she, of course, loved us and the family and her friends more than anything. And I think that is what kept her going till the very end. But of course, she couldn't keep pulling a rabbit out of the hat forever. So as I reflect on her passing and death in general, it remains to be one of the most confusing things and frankly terrible things I can imagine. But this whole process actually has shown me the other side, which is that death is this built-in mechanism in nature for peace, for rest, and in the case of Julie especially, for the cessation of suffering. And so, as we gather here today in deep sadness for our loss, there's nothing that we'd want more than to have Julie in our lives for years to come. I personally cannot ignore the other side of this, which is that in many ways, this is a true blessing for Julie, because Julie can now finally rest in peace. And I think that not only because of the suffering that she's endured, but more importantly, for the person she was the full life she lived, and all the lives she touched with her feisty, yet infinitely loving personality, I think we can all agree that this will be a most well-deserved rest.
Lorenzo, if BCIT doesn't work out, let's talk about the rabbinate for you. Okay. There's a teaching in our tradition that when a person dies, their soul returns to God. And God asks a very simple question. What did you do with the life that I gave you? The question's not what did you accumulate, not what you achieved, or how did you celebrate or observe Shabbos, but what did you do with the life that I placed in your hands? If Rosa Tesler-Mabe were to answer that question today, I think the answer would be very clear. She would say, I took care of people. That was the Torah of Rosa's life. Many of you knew her, of course, as Julie by her nickname, a name that began in childhood and stayed with her through the decades, and I'm happy to hear that it also transformed into Chewy as well. Names have a way of revealing something about a person, and Julie sounds like someone you can approach, someone warm, someone who will listen. And that's exactly who she was. Over the years, Rosa sent me many emails, close to 50 that I could find when I looked last night. Most of them were responses to a sermon or something I had written. She would offer perspective, encouragement, sometimes insight, and dare I say that she was second only to my mom in offering praise. She was always thoughtful, always generous. She paid attention. And paying attention to other people is one of the great and quiet forms of love in this world. And Rosa had that gift. Her children described her strength as something quiet and steady, not loud, not dramatic. She didn't draw attention to herself. She just simply did what needed to be done. And life asked a lot of that from her. Born in Buenos Aires into a Jewish family with deep roots in its community, her grandfather served as president of the synagogue. Judaism was woven into the fabric of her upbringing. But like so many Jewish families in the 20th century, her life was shaped by upheaval. She and Eduardo built a family while moving across continents: Chicago, Detroit, Vancouver, back to Argentina. And then after the military coup in the 1970s, when political persecution spread fear across the country and Jewish institutions were targeted, the family had to leave again and rebuild their lives here in Canada. Again and again, Rosa gathered her children and moved forward with determination and love. Carlos, speaking for Gabby and Hernan, described their mom's fortitude as a kind of silent strength. That was the job to do. There was a job to do. The family needed stability, the children needed protection, and life needed to continue. And so she did what she always did. She took care of people. That instinct eventually became her life's work. As you mentioned, for 25 years, she worked as a counselor helping battered women. Think about that for a moment. Day after day, she sat with women whose lives had been shaken by violence, fear, and humiliation. She listened. She steadied them. She helped them find their footing again. That's holy work. I'm not sure there's anything holier. And as I listened to the family describe her life, I kept thinking of a story from the book of Exodus that we've just begun reading as we approach Passover. Before Moses is even born, Pharaoh issues a decree that the Hebrew baby boys are to be killed. But two women, midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, are given the task of carrying out that order, and they refuse. Quietly, courageously, without fanfare, the Torah tells us that they protected life. They helped bring vulnerable children safely into the world where the world had become dangerous. And I thought about Rosa, because she spent her life doing something very similar. She protected people when they were vulnerable. She helped people find safety when the world was becoming frightening. And she steadied peoples whose lives were fragile. The midwives of Exodus saved lives at the beginning of life, and Rosa helped save lives when those lives had been broken by suffering. Different moments in the story of humanity, but the same instinct, the same holy charge, to protect, to nurture, to preserve dignity. And that's what she did. Her family described how she carried that same presence into her own home. Like many immigrant families, they experienced their share of upheaval and stress, but Rosa tried to hold the center. She tried to create calm, to build peace in her household. I'm told that in addition to Chewy, you also called her Mother Bear. Is that right? A mother bear protects her cubs fiercely, but she also feeds them and shelters them. And that was Rosa too. She was deeply devoted to her family, to Eduardo, to her children, to her grandchildren. Someone noticed recently in her home there wasn't a single photograph of Rosa alone. Every picture included someone else. A child, a grandchild, family, a friend. For Rosa, life was never about self-standing alone. Life was about relationship. And she also carried a deep sense of honesty. Her family described her as someone who spoke her mind. She did not pretend. She did not hide behind polite evasions. She had no place or time for BS. She gave you her honest opinion, but she did it with kindness and a smile, though it was still honest. That combination, honesty and warmth, they are rare. Being able to pull it off with so many people being appreciative of it was her unique gift. She could tell the truth and still make you feel cared for. She had the instincts of a counselor, listening deeply, offering perspective, helping people see themselves more clearly, and people trusted her. They sought her advice, and even in small things you could see her generosity. She rarely arrived anywhere empty-handed. She always brought food with her. She cooked and she shared what she had. Cooking, music, culture, family, these were the things that nourished her. She loved music, and I'm sure she loved Ayla when you played for her. Opera and classical and folk music of Argentina. She even played piano and returned to it later in life. And she loved plants and gardens. Flowers seemed to flourish in her care. And it was mentioned she loved animals, especially dogs. And even near the end of her life, she found joy in just hearing stories about dogs or rewatching films about dogs. These details matter, they really do, because they show us how she inhabited the world. Because she noticed beauty, and she noticed people. She paid attention. Even in illness, she remained that same person. Her body weakened, but her mind stayed sharp. She asked nurses their names. She wanted to know who was caring for her. It's important, she would say. You're taking care of me, I need to know you. Even in vulnerability, she created relationship. And she was so strong and so courageous. Strong enough to fight for treatments that were there, where there was hope, when there was hope. And strong enough to advocate for herself in the medical system. Strong enough finally to say what she needed and how she wanted the final chapter of her life to unfold. In Jewish tradition, when we bury someone, we say that the body returns to the earth, but the soul does not disappear. The soul returns to God. And the memory of that life becomes part of us, which means Rosa's life is now entrusted to each of us. We are entrusted with her honesty. Her courage is a gift to us. Her instinct to care for people is now our charge. And her devotion to family, well, you are our family now too. And those things will continue. They'll continue through us. May the memory of Rosa, Julie Tesler-Mabe be a blessing. And may the love she gave so generously continue to guide this family and each of us for generations to come. Amen. Friends, I'm going to ask you to rise now for El Malei Rachamim as we chant a prayer for Julie's soul. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfecha Shechina, Im Kiroshim Otechorim, Ki Zochar Ki Amazkirim, Et Nishmat, Rosa Leba, Baracharon, Clara, Shechalal Olama, Baal Harachamim, Yastirecha, Beset Kanafav Olamim, Vayitzrur, Bitzrur Hachayim et Nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata, V'tanuach, B'shalom, Al Mishkavah, V'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Rosa, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And we say together, Amen. And I'm going to ask you to remain standing now and ask the pallbearers to come forward, please, and take your positions beside the casket. If you have the handout that was handed out, if you take it with you to the graveside, we'll use it to recite a poem and say Kaddish at the graveside. And we'll proceed in procession in just a moment.